Okay, so last thing at this freeholder meeting was a Republican candidate for freeholder appeared, Andrew Smith, and he pretty much gave his take on the process, and this is what he said.
Lack of leadership on this board. When I come here and the meeting's essentially done in 5 minutes, I know that there's no leadership. When you vote 9-0 on everything, from one to resolution, whatever, every single time, 9-0, you don't ask questions, you don't probe, it shows a lack of leadership, it shows yes people. And now we get a report from your guy, a Democrat, a guy who you just reappointed, who's saying that this music fest was a complete disaster, and you're saying you got nothing to apologize for? I'm a military guy. I was in the military. I learned leadership for 8 years. People asked me at the time of the Abu Ghraib prison scandal, should Rumsfeld have stepped down? And there's a debate at the time about whether he could have done anything about what happened in Iraq and Abu Ghraib prison, and he didn't. But whether he did or didn't do something, or whether he could have or he could have not done something, is irrelevant. He should have stepped down. And he should have stepped down because he was the guy in charge at a time when there was an utter disaster. And he had to take responsibility for that as a leader. And when something like this happens, when it's reported by a left-leaning newspaper, the Star-Ledger, when they call for the end of Music Fest, when they call for accountability, leaders ought to step up and take responsibility for that action. There was no acknowledgement of anything wrong. There was no acknowledgement of any responsibility. There was no comment about how you were going to hold anybody accountable for what was clearly wrongful conduct. Nothing, not a single one of you stood up and said, I'll take the responsibility. We as a freeholder board should have overlooked this better. We should have supervised this better. We as a freeholder board will hold these people accountable who are putting cash in safes without receipts, who are overpaying vendors by tens of thousands of dollars. You didn't even say, much less take any action to actually do something. You didn't even say it's not going to happen again. You should at least give us, the taxpayers who are paying the $1.1 million, that. Instead, I go to Music Fest, and I drive up, and somebody hands me a full-page color advertisement for you guys, the freeholders, with your pictures, your color pictures, paid for by the Union County taxpayers. It gets handed to me as I pay my $10, as I take my kids there for an hour and go on a couple rides and spend $43 in addition to the $1.1 million I pay as a taxpayer. And I got to look at that after that report. Whether you think it's baloney or not, it was your guy who wrote the report. And a leader would have stepped up and taken responsibility. A leader would have held some people accountable. And a leader would have told the taxpayers who got screwed here that it wasn't going to happen again. And I hope on November 9th, you will have a leader who will do that.
Okay, and at that time, this was open session. Nobody mentioned anything to him about it or said, go away, kid, nothing like that. But during freeholder comments, Freeholder Sullivan did address his remarks, and I'll stay to the end because there were something afterwards. So this is what Freeholder Sullivan said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. I think if you're going to go up there and criticize the prosecutor, you should at least get his name right. It's Romanko. And I certainly suspect that mispronunciation is on purpose, but I'll hopefully the speaker, the next time she speaks of the prosecutor, will pronounce his name correctly. There was one gentleman in the audience who spoke who was very upset when his name was mispronounced here. So I think, with all due respect to the prosecutor, should at least pronounce his name correctly.
I've heard my name pronounced many different ways, and I've never drawn
Mr.
exception
Bittner, that's
to that.
inappropriate.
And of course, people, you know, well, whatever. That was just a note. And finally, the gentleman who spoke, I guess he's a candidate for office. To compare Music Fest with Abu Ghraib is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Kind of like
One of the
comparing
most
Mona Lisa
egregious-
to the
One of the most egregious events that was performed. Perhaps you were in the service at the time, and we thank you for your service. But to try to sit here and stand there and compare Abu Ghraib and Drumsfeld to Music Fest is beyond the pale. Is beyond the pale. I hope you do better out on the campaign trail. But let me give you a little bit of advice from somebody who's won a couple of elections.
Make
Don't
your
go
point.
there,
Are you trying to
okay?
apologize
Don't go
or say
there.
thank you?
No,
Mr.
I'm
Bittner,
not
you are
talking.
out of order. I will
I'm
have
not
you
talking to
removed. I will have you removed,
you. You
sir.
spoke to us. Now we're speaking.
Don't insult a veteran.
Excuse me, sir. Officer?
You don't know what you're talking about.
Would you
sir.
please
You
ask
don't
me
know what
what
you're
you're
talking about. Why don't you apologize? I'll apologize for mispronouncing the prosecutor that you appointed who
Ms. Rena?
investigated you.
You are
I
out of
apologize
order,
for
ma'am.
mispronouncing his name. Now you apologize for
Ma'am,
the
you are out
graft.
of order.
The graft that he overlooked that went on here. You apologize. You're in charge
Move the
here.
woman, please.
You're in charge here. I hope you're accountable here on earth because you're going to hell.
Oh, I forgot. That's the second time.
You all are. You're all going to hell.
We're going to hell.
Every one of you. You're all responsible.
See you there.
Bye.
See you there. You'll get there first. I'm sorry. But, and as we talk, it's easy for someone to get up there and say what they want to say. And we're allowed to say what we want. That's the whole essence of the government. You can criticize us, and we can criticize you. And that's my statement towards you. Good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
You're going to need it. Thank you.
That's how Tina got thrown out. Anything happened after you got thrown out?
It was very pleasant. Nice to ride the elevator around. Got to catch up on my phone calls that didn't make during the day.
Okay, and you were trying to get thrown out too, I see.
What am I-
Speaking from the...
No, I wasn't attempting to get thrown out.
Neither was I.
I
but
just
you
wanted
can't-
to set the record straight. What was the point I was making that the only comment that Sullivan could make tonight was the pronunciation of the prosecutor's name? I think we deserve more than that. You know, that is just a very cheap, childish, grade
I
school.
don't know if the prosecutor is as childish as he is. I don't know the man. I really don't know of him. I don't
But
I wonder if
afterwards,
he's that immature and juvenile as Sullivan.
I did go up to Creola Mirabella and did shake his hand. I did congratulate him for, in his closing comments, he did address Music Fest, that they are trying to make changes. And
They're trying?
I accept that. He actually stayed on topic and made some relevant points. We never hear relevant points in closing comments.
Did he say there was going to be a report for the public to
No, he didn't go that
up on
far.
their website, so we don't have to go digging
No,
and
we
searching
didn't go that
for
far.
hours and hours, searching and
He
digging.
didn't go that far.
Well, Scanlon did come up with what she thought was a relevant point, and here it is.
Last but not least, I do want to say that, I know that some people come here. I know that everyone who comes here and comes to the microphone comes with a purpose, and that's to be heard by the government. I understand that. However, it's inappropriate for the public to be yelling out from their seats after they've made their comments. It's our turn at that point. It is certainly more polite and more civil for you to hold your tongue. If you need to speak to us about something, you can see us after the meeting, or you could bring it up at the next meeting. But it is certainly inappropriate for you to be yelling from your seats, and I hope that that doesn't continue.
And that was her problem, people yelling out from the audience, and she wanted to make an example. So that's pretty much how it ended.
Are we not supposed to yell out from the audience when this is your government? You go there and you ask for apologies for serious issues. When your government is behaving this way in such a disrespectful manner, are you, as an American citizen, supposed to sit there like you're in a Catholic schoolroom and listen to the authority just harass you, make harassing comments, harassing juvenile comments? It's insulting. It's insulting, and it calls for civil disobedience. It calls for it. It's It's our freedoms at stake here. This is our liberty. When you don't have equal justice for all, we're not free. We're not a free people.
And to finish up, the Scanlon point was that you had your time, now we have ours. But the difference is our time is used to bring up pay to play, Weber Dow, musicfest, where's the money going, how we're going to cut our taxes. And their time is being used to tell you there's a hayride coming up.
I wanted to just advise everybody that I believe within the next week or so, hayrides are going to start in the deserted village, which, you know, I always thought it was in Summit, but I've been corrected and it's actually in Berkeley Heights. It's pretty close to Summit though. So you should try to get there. They're a lot of fun and they actually have a scary ride for adults.
Right. And we have to sit through that too. And I'll tell you, that's pretty infuriating to have to sit there through that nonsense.
Right.
There's 9 freeholders. They never have a serious question to answer. But they can talk about this nonsense.
Well, the other inequity is that we have 5 minutes.
Right.
They have infinite amount of time to say whatever they want. And we get comments like, empty your bird bags, you know?
And they could rebut, and you can't.
And they can rebut, and we can't.